or to any of those places. Imagine tens of thousands of us go out into the street and say, we want leadership, we want movement. Our governor doesn't even bother to show up, doesn't even bother to make a statement. We need a candidate, a nominee for governor who will call him out on that. Let me give you a real quick example just as I finish. You remember that? By the way, I'm really sorry you did this. Apparently you all got on buses and went and voted illegally in New Hampshire. I mean, yeah,
I did it 3 times.
Did it 3 times. You snuck past the police and all that. Yeah, well, we'll have to figure that out. But listen, so that's what the president said, that he lost New Hampshire because we went up there, and the governor was asked about this. Governor, what do you think about the president's claim? Here's what he should have said. He should have said, Mr. President, sir, you are slandering the people of Massachusetts, my citizens. I would appreciate it if you never said that again. Here's what he actually said. I don't know what goes on in New Hampshire. That's what he actually said. Now this guy may have been the nice guy, we may have elected him, but we discovered he's not a good manager, he has no vision, he's not willing to stand up in a moment of crisis. I will be. I've spent my whole life doing this kind of thing. I want to end on a very positive note. We have seen that blue wave getting closer and closer to Massachusetts. We have seen victories in Virginia, in New Jersey, in Missouri, in Wisconsin, in Pennsylvania, and in Alabama. Yeah. And if a Democrat can win in Alabama, I believe a Democrat can win right here in Massachusetts. So I'd like to ask for your support. Woo! That was about 9 minutes. All right, a couple of quick questions. Okay?
So
yes
you
and
mentioned,
yes. No, start with you, sir.
You mentioned obviously a couple things about Charlie Baker's lack of leadership, lack of visibility. Are there other specific things that you're going to say, you want to take him on those issues?
Oh my God, I mean almost everything. On the opioid crisis, on his failure on education, on his, well, to go back, on his unwillingness to tackle problems that are coming at us, on immigration, where I think he's, I mean, let's face it, the way I put it is, he is trying to straddle a barbed wire fence. That's not easy to do. And that barbed wire fence is trying to please Trump, at the same time uphold Massachusetts values. And because he didn't vote for Trump, Trump has got him right smack in his bullseye. And Charlie Baker knows that's why he hasn't spoken out. That's why he doesn't want to say anything. He didn't vote for Trump. Here's an interesting question. Who is he going to vote for in 2020? We should ask him. Is he going to vote for the head of his own party, for whom he has been raising money? That's another thing you may not know. Charlie Baker's been raising money outside of our regular system at $43,000 a pop. Imagine going to somebody and saying, will you give me $43,000 for the Republican National Committee, for the Republican Governors Association? Some of that goes to Trump, some of it goes to the race in Alabama, some of it's going to come back to Charlie. But I'll tell you, here's the interesting thing. If I win the primary, whoever wins the primary, if Jay wins, if I win it, but I'm hoping I will win. If I win the primary, I will be joined with Elizabeth Warren in her coordinated campaign that you were just talking about. She raised $45 million last time, so Charlie's $8 million doesn't sound like quite so much. We're also going to have Maura Healey. Elizabeth Warren got 600,000 more votes. So Charlie, his poll numbers don't really stand up. He doesn't have the troops, and he doesn't even really have the money. And we have the people, and we have the values. The only thing is we can't fall for his Jedi mind trick, which says that because he's got a lot of money and high poll numbers and is very tall, he can't be beat. He can be beat, unless we decide in advance to give up. And that's why I'm asking you, don't give up. This guy, imagine what it'd be like to really have a governor, a bold, progressive governor making progress on every area that we've mentioned. I'm excited about it. And I will say that if Jay wins, I'm going to support Jay. I think I have different skills from him, and I think it's really about, you have to look at what do you think is going to beat Baker? What do you think are the skills that are needed? I happen to think someone who offers a fresh start and this deep experience is the right mix. But if I didn't think that, I wouldn't be standing here. So, yes, sir.
Yeah, that was a great speech, and I'm really excited about the campaign. And should you
the primary, we're all certainly going to work very hard at it.
Thank you.
Are there any substantive different programmatic differences between you and Jay Gonzalez?
Yeah,
Or you would say, yeah, what you're saying is wrong.
Well, one of the good things about campaigns, and is part of democracy, is that when one candidate says something that seems to be winning support, other candidates tend to line up. And so we have converged. I mean, I've been for single payer for 40 years. He's been for single payer for a year or two, or whatever it is. So it's a question of we have very different backgrounds. And I don't want to sound like I'm criticizing him. I'm just trying to lay out. So he is a lawyer, you know, worked for a corporate law firm, did that kind of work. He says that he can be Baker because he was a budget chief. Charlie was head of the budget. Jay was head of the budget. Charlie was went on to run a healthcare company. Jay went to run a healthcare company. That's all fine. I just don't think that's a pattern for victory. I also think that he does not talk about economic justice. He did not talk about women's rights for about a month after I was bringing it up over and over again, and I put out another plan I'd like to circulate on women's equality and gender justice. He has not talked about corporate power, and I've said that I support small business, but I believe corporate power is damaging our democracy, certainly at the federal level, and that it has too much influence over the kind of things that pass through Beacon Hill, and certainly in this governor's mind. So I think I'm clearer about what the structure of the problems are. I think I have more systematic or systemic understanding. Let me just give you one example. I come from the kind of training that says that every problem is related, and if you make progress in one area, it ripples through. So, for example, if we were to build a decent transportation system, it would open up where you could go for affordable housing. So transportation would help affordable housing. Affordable housing would improve child and maternal health. Child and maternal health, if it were improved, improves performance in school, and performance in school increases the likelihood that a child will do well. So we need to make those investments, not in a Republican manner, I'm sorry, there's not enough money, it's all a trade-off, but in the understanding that these things fit. So it's a different set of experiences, different kind of mental training, and I believe that what I have been through and what I offer, both as a human being and my own struggles and the professional experience I've had, are the right thing for the moment. But ultimately, that's your choice. I mean, I really do understand that we're laying ourselves out there, we're competing strongly, and it's really up to you what you think you want in a leader. I want to get a woman at some point. I'll take you and then you, okay? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
and then I'll
I'd love to be happy. And could you give us, I work in construction management, so I go over the state, I'm traveling, and I go western, central Mass, and everything. Can you give some specific examples of how you would connect, like Pittsfield or Worcester or wherever?
You mean by train or by?
Yeah, like what
Okay.
examples would you work on?
Okay, so do we have that thing with the? Okay.
I just handed them out, so they're all.
There is a, yes, can I just borrow this for a second? So I can't right now list all of these things, but I put out this comprehensive plan, it's 40 pages, lays out all the specific things we could do. A lot of it is about trains. I mean, we need to, if you go to most other modern industrial economies, they have very advanced train systems that link. So we need to rebuild that. Now, these two trains here are in Japan. They're 15 years old, and they go 160 miles an hour. So you could get, for example, from Boston to Worcester in 20 minutes. Now, to be as specific as I can, we need to, every single place has its own specific problems. There's the South Coast branch and spur problems. There's the North-South rail link. There's problems getting up to the North Shore. There's certainly tremendous east-west problems that we need to address. We don't have to only build a high-speed rail, but we need to speed up and strengthen that entire trunk line all the way to Albany. Then we need to build branch lines across from it. We need to improve commuter rail service. Some of it's already happening. It's just not happening fast enough and not comprehensively enough. So I'm resisting going into too many of the details, but does that give you a sense? And then in addition to that, obviously, you know, this governor has been cutting back on regional transport authority, the RTAs, like in Worcester, where people depend on those bus lines, and they're getting ready to kill those bus lines. And I was with people looking into their eyes who said, what am I going to do? I don't have a car. I'm homeless or borderline homeless. One woman was in a wheelchair. And, you know, you kill those bus lines who essentially are isolating and capturing people in a way that just doesn't make sense for them or for the rest of us. I'll be right there, ma'am. Yes.
Thank you for mentioning education, but I have a question about the Department for Children. I've been very disappointed in the past few governors on that, in that area, and I'm wondering some of your opinions on that. Have you?
The problem was the poor performance of the Department of Children and Families. Well, you are right. Every single governor has struggled with this. And fundamentally it is that we, and I have met with DCF workers. Do you work for DCF?
No.
Well, I've met with DCF workers and they are so intensely frustrated because as we continue to cut their budget, their workload goes up, and therefore the probability that they're going to miss one of these terrible circumstances and unintentionally expose a child to danger is something that worries them. But we do know that happens, and the auditor, Suzanne Bump, put out a very disturbing report about how basically our systems of information weren't aligned, and so we were not even aware of injuries that had happened to children, other things that should have tipped people off, because that information was going one place and the people who needed to know it were over somewhere else. So I don't want to say that, you know, in a month I could fix this.
No, I know that,
but I
but
do
at least
think,
you have
I do
the
think
interest
this
in
governor
it.
he tends to talk more than he does.
Oh, no
And
action at all.
so that's also true in the opioid crisis, where he said it's a critical thing, and yet he has not put the additional money. It is sweeping many parts of the state. You know, I certainly know in the Cape and Western Mass, and I gather also around here, this is a deep problem. It's getting worse, and it's very, again, it's an integrated problem. Treatment, law enforcement, addiction. By the way, I would go after those drug companies that